2024. There have been a series of workshops and meetings and a considerable volume of work put in by officers of the Ministry of ICTI during these 6 months. Ladies and gentlemen, I now invite you to watch a small video on the voice of people of different age groups on the importance of ICT and the making of the blueprint. Let us have the video, please.
Di mois de week-end et des fois que pendant l'école nous avons un update man devoir voilà pour savoir avoir des devoirs nous avons man devoir des fois des leçons même karaté ça aide moi bana avoir ban update nous pas en karaté etc.
En troisième âge et elle est passée tout au question longtemps je me disais comment pas faire série parce que moi c'est obligé de voir mon business sorti dans ma carrière fait ça donc dit à cela donc rasa kaya hai le pays confortable right pour de l'autre côté un autre point nous avons beaucoup d'informations pour y aller là aussi mon gars dans TikTok mon gars tout pas ça quand nous pénétrer pour nous connaître right le petit gars dit tout pas d'informations c'est l'encyclopédie c'est un développement c'est pas gars mais il y a des passes de la vie beaucoup beaucoup là
par exemple pour faire une déclaration c'est le système qui s'y mettait en place là il fait vraiment bon c'est beaucoup de milliers de passer même espérer je vous ai évolué. Mais vous espérez qu'il y a une direction là. Mais d'un côté digitalisation, vous avez une bonne affaire. Alors, il faut vous aimer comme ça. Donc, le domaine, il faut vous aimer comme ça.
En tant qu'étudiant en technologie, j'avais un rôle vraiment important dans la vie. Par exemple, grâce à la technologie, aujourd'hui, nous avons accès envers une application, une plateforme comme Google Cloud, Meet, Zoom et beaucoup d'autres. Que ça les facilite notre academic life. Par exemple, ça les permet de non pas que gagner des data, mais aussi ça aide nous pour rester connected avec le lecture virtually, faire une classe online pour des conditions qui ne sont pas capables d'aller là-bas physiquement, par exemple, faute pluie et beaucoup d'autres. Et aussi ça les aide nous pour subir tout assignment et tout. Maintenant, grâce à l'impact positif que la technologie a amené, ça lui même permet de suivre un workshop online, un workshop qui est organisé internationally, que ça lui aide nous pour connecter everyone globally. Et quand nous cause technologie, nous cause d'une façon que comment ça évolue. Par exemple, de nos jours, nous n'avons pas besoin d'un paper. Par exemple, nous devons un paper free work. Par exemple, face à une tablette ou un laptop ou un digital milestone, nous sommes capables de prendre une news, une information, un travail plus pratiquement. C'est-à-dire, la technologie aide nous pour non pas faire un travail d'une façon plus organisée et structurée, mais aussi aide nous connecter avec the global world, like internationally.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've just had a glimpse of what went behind the realization of the blueprint. But The knowledge may be there, the experience may be there, but if there is no direction, there would be no achievement. This blueprint would not have become a reality without the vision, the dedication, the motivation, and the guidance of Dr. the Honorable Avinash Ramtual, who is himself an expert in the field. As the Minister of ICTI, he not only gave instructions, but formed part of the team, worked as much as everyone else, sometimes even more, so that this blueprint could be crafted. Dr. the Honorable Minister Avinash Ramtual, it's a pleasure for me to invite you to address our esteemed guest on this very special occasion.
Thank you, Madam. His Excellency, Mr. Dharamveer Gokul, President of the Republic of Mauritius, Honorable Ministers, Honorable Junior Ministers, the Chief of Staff, Her Excellency Mrs. Lisa Singh, the UN Resident Coordinator, Mrs. Amanda Serumaga, the representative of the UNDP and Mauritius and Seychelles, Senior Chief Executives of Ministries, Permanent Secretaries, and representatives of the ministries, honorable members of the National Assembly, Mrs. Amita Goa, Ombudsperson for Children, ladies and gentlemen, a very, very good afternoon to you. And we welcome you to this event, during which we'll have the honor of having the President launch the blueprint for the ICT sector. Digitalization is far more too important for us to let it be without a direction. We got the first direction from the President upon the unveiling of the government program, which was done in January 2025. And this blueprint now derives from the initial program, the government program that was launched. And there were very salient features in that program. They also linked all the promises that we made during the election period. And now we're in a different logic. We are in a different frame of mind. Now is the time for us to rebuild. The state of the economy was a very revealing document in terms of where we stand today. And there are bold actions that need to be taken. Some of those bold actions would cut across digitalization. It's good for us just to go back in time a little bit. Some of you would probably be surprised to know that the first entity with regards to computerization, and I will choose a term which was back then the actual term to be used, computerization, in 1971, with the establishment of what used to be called the Data Processing Division. The key function of the Data Processing Division then was to do data entry, and those were done using, some of you would remember, using punched cards. And then later it started working on the government payroll. That was 1971, and there were a few further developments that took place later. And I just noted it down. 1989 was the first setup of the institutional framework, and that was 1989, whereby the NCB was established, SIL was established, CITRAC, some of you would remember, State Informatics Training Center, which was to actually provide training in computerization, and the Central Informatics Bureau. 1996 was the first strategy paper, and that was called back then the Shocking Framework, which established the need for infrastructure development and human resources development, plus establishment of the legal framework. 2007, the first national ICT strategic plan was unveiled. The government online center was to be established, and the government intranet system was to be established, and that plan was revised in 2012. 2011. But before that, the Ministry of IT was established in 1997. And the latest version of the National ICT Strategy Plan ran up to 2014. I would, at this point in time, pay respect to all the work done by the previous IT ministers of the time we spoke, and also the previous ICT pioneers who actually crafted the ICT industry. And we are today sitting with an industry which has contribution to the GDP, but which also, in an ailing manner, calls upon re-looking at what we are doing and how we are doing what we are doing. Hence, the need for this ICT blueprint. Over time, we've also had a lot of multinational companies that established their businesses in Mauritius. This place was chosen for a lot of reasons. It's very obvious, we won't go for that. But we now have to maintain that because the African continent is doing very well in terms of digitalization. And Mauritius, between 2022 and 2024, we lost 12 ranks in what we call as the E-Government Development Index, an index which is computed by the UN. So 12 ranks is a lot. Therefore, we need to re-look for that position. We need to re-establish ourselves in the minds of the African governments and African businesses and beyond as to why Mauritius remains a good place to do business and a good place to run their ICT infrastructures. Maybe a good time for discussing, whether we also need to set up a museum for ICT in this country so that all this history is actually captured within that museum. The blueprint is based on several principles. I'll just quickly mention a few. We cannot pretend to be doing electronic government when we do not have a single source of truth for all citizens. And today, if you look around, your personal data are stored maybe at the Registrar General, at the National Land Transport Authority, stored at the school you went to, stored at the university you went to, stored at the licensing department of the police. If you've ever paid any fines, it would be at the judiciary, it is at your bank, it is at your local authority. It's at least 20 places. And if we have that kind of a situation, how do we trust any KYC that is being done? How do we actually, as a private company then, establish the veracity of a claim which a citizen is making with regards to his identity? Therefore, the very first thing to do is to establish a data hub for citizens which actually stores data about citizens as a single source of truth. Then whether it is the local authorities, it is the NLTA, it is the Metro, it is any other company that is providing services to citizens, it will rely on this data. Strange enough, if you go to, if a policeman has to look for details about a citizen, it becomes a challenge as to where that data can be found, the latest version of that data. Addresses may also not be totally updated. And we have the Data Protection Act, which actually mandates the need for having that type of data updated. Now, going forward, we want to implement digitalization for all. Nobody should be left behind. We still see people queuing up at many government counters. And we believe that in Mauritius of 2025, this cannot be allowed anymore. We need to move citizens from being in line to getting online. Today in Kenya, in Nairobi, those of you who know Nairobi, there's a market, a mall called Sarit Center. It's not the most upmarket, it's mid-market. You enter that mall with your car. Your mobile phone can actually scan a QR code that is generated by a central console. And the moment you leave that place, a signal is picked up and the payment is made right away for your parking charges. And if we look at that type of application, we're still far behind. But we do not want to be left far behind. And this is why we want to establish mobile payments. We want to actually encourage more of that. But there also is the sensitization. There also is education to be done. As we sit here, comfortably, air-conditioned, there are a lot of places in Mauritius, a lot of regions, where people aren't able to use these facilities. Not that they do not have the finance for it, not that they don't have the device for it, simply they have not been empowered. And if we want to really and honestly talk about digitalization, we need to reach out to those far areas and ensure that we reduce the digital divide. Digital for all also means the Mauritius Digital Transformation Agency, the XNCB, going out to those regions, talking to the parents, talking to the kids about what we want to do and what is this blueprint about. It's not a surprise to anybody that artificial intelligence has made it even more difficult to have a clean digital space. In as much as we want a safe physical space, we have our policemen who actually help us do that. We also need to have a clean digital space for all. We see what happened to our children on Telegram, the social media app. All of us saw that. We've also seen the kind of trolling that is taking place on social media. Let apart politicians, even civilians, normal civilians are also not spared. People use that for revenge porn. People use that for sextortion. People use that for a lot of different types of harms. And we've had these discussions in various workshops around how do we now make sure that we are able to establish the right environment where people are safe, not only in the physical space, but also in the virtual space. Our physical space, as we know it, we've known it for years. And internet technologies and social media have been imposed upon us, if we think about it that way. Our children, Generation Y, Generation Z, Generation Alpha, good to go. They are born in this era. But people who are Generation X, Generation Y, internet technologies, social media have been imposed upon us. We learned to live with it. We learned to live with it because we came from another era. And we are probably the second last generation to be living the analog and the digital life. And it is our responsibility, because we've known both worlds, it's our responsibility to ensure that we create that safe digital space for people. And this is what this blueprint also targets, besides e-inclusion. E-democracy is another key element. While we are talking about moderating or ensuring that social media is a clean place for us all, we also cannot make abstraction of the fact that constitutionally people have the freedom of expression in this country. However, people should also realize that the freedom of expression stops where the right of privacy of people starts. And that line can be a moving line, depending upon whether we're talking about a pet or we're talking about normal civilian. But these are critical elements. And e-diplomacy is another pillar on which this blueprint sits. We have the UN resident, we have the UNDP, we are working with them, and we are also betting a lot on internationalization. We are today already aligned, almost, with the requirements of GDPR, and there is one last bit left around EU adequacy. We are accelerating the amendment to the legislation so that we are totally aligned with it. Because companies operating in Mauritius, which are dealing with data of European citizens, they need to be comfortable that this jurisdiction is providing for those requirements and that their data will be properly managed. And there's no second way of saying it. We have a serious problem with our culture of data protection in the country. If you look around at how many companies today are compliant with the requirements of the Data Protection Act, a simple one, how many companies already have a data protection officer? Companies that are registered as data controllers or data processors, the score will be less than 50%. Therefore, a lot more work needs to be done at that level as well. And a lot of focus has to be laid on empowerment or digital empowerment through knowledge. The internet today is not just a technology. The internet means access to education, access to information, access to evolution, access to development, inclusion. And we are leveraging the internet at maximum for this blueprint. And talking about AI, it goes without saying that artificial intelligence has made it more difficult for moderating social media. Why? Because of generative AI. So we can actually generate video tracks, audio tracks, we can generate images which were never real, but which can cause prejudice to people, which can cause prejudice to your children. Therefore, it is really, really necessary for us to relook at how AI is being developed and being used. AI is helping the world in an unbelievable fashion. In the education sector, AI can actually predict the performance of students a few years down the line. AI can help save lives because an AI machine can read an electrocardiogram within seconds and a human doctor can take more time. And that time lapse can be critical to save the life of that person. AI is being used to detect websites that are promoting radicalization of young people in Europe, and AI is being used to also detect the predators of children and women on social media. So AI is really helping the world a lot. But just like any other technology, if AI is not actually put within the right framework, it can also be detrimental to the society. AI can be used to create division in societies. AI can be used as well to change or to infect the minds of people. And we've seen that happen just a few months back in this country. Now, we need to firstly establish a solid foundation on which we will build further. And reconstructing our economy necessarily goes through digitalization. Therefore, a solid, what we call as a DPI, digital public infrastructure, remains number one on the agenda. And that should be totally secure, so that we don't have people with mustache and beards coming up again. And that is very important. Plus, review of the overall institutional framework of the ICT sector also becomes important. For us to do AI, we need volume, variety, and velocity of data. And within the government sector, we do not have a place which actually consolidates data together. So forget AI. We can't even do proper business intelligence with that. So it is necessary for us to establish that, and also how that data is going to be used. Now, very often, you would have seen that people, when they go to government counters, they are asked for the same documents over and over again. And that becomes frustrating for people. That gets very frustrating, especially for the young lads, those who are Generation Z. The principle of tell us only once is at heart of the blueprint. Many of us are submitting our tax returns online via the MRA. And that, we believe, is an excellent application. But an equally less number of people are actually doing their payment for what we call as declaration online. And my colleague here, Honorable Mohammed, and myself, we've had a lot of discussions around it, and very soon we'll be resolving some of those problems so that we can help the lives of people better. And it, however, comes also with a lot of concepts that we use in the design of systems. And there has been big failures in terms of the design. And this has actually eroded the interest in the use of those systems. So the blueprint also looks at a number of those elements. And I will not go into further details, but I would just want to stop here. And I would want to thank the whole team that worked together with myself and some of other heads of organizations in the preparation of this blueprint. When I was completely in the private sector, some people were telling me that, you know what, in the public sector, people don't work till late. Now, if that person tells me that again, I'd ask him to come and visit my ministry. Because there is this misconception about people not wanting to work till late. I would not think that's right. I would think that people want to work, people have passion to do what they're doing, but it's just about the environment that we want to provide. And at the Ministry of IT, it is now a different kind of a ministry. It's not what it used to be. And people are very motivated, and this blueprint is a result of that. There was a tender, as Madam said earlier, planned by the previous regime. We thought it would be a waste of money. Why? Because we know what we want, we know what we need to do, and we know we can do it. And that's the trust we have. And we now are looking forward to the implementation of this blueprint. But we cannot do that without the help and support of one and all. And there is this 4Ps principle that we've applied here. We always talk about people, public-private partnership, the 3Ps, but we add one more P to it. The public, private, and people partnership. We went out to the people, we reached out to them, we asked them to come in so we can consult with them, so we can also hear from them. We opened a chatbot called Maya so that the youth of the country could also give us their input around the blueprint. And I'm very thankful to everybody who has submitted their input. I'm thankful to everybody from the ministry who has helped, and everybody outside of the ministry, including the private sector, for all their help. They didn't do it for the ministry, they didn't do it for me, they did it for this country, they did it for their children, they did it for generations to come. And this is what the blueprint is about, for generations to come. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Minister. I would request you to please stay here with us. We have the pleasure to present you the bouquet. So, Ms. Ashmita, if you would please present the bouquet to the Minister. Thank you again, Minister. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now moving to the highlight of this event. Today is a special day for the country, not only because this blueprint will improve the life of each and every citizen and of every sector, but also because the blueprint will be launched by His Excellency, Mr. Dharamveer Gokul, the President of the Republic of Mauritius. I would request His Excellency, to please remain seated while I'll come to you with a device for the digital launching, the digital version of the blueprint that will be launched by you. So symbolically, a short video will show the blueprint coming to life to feature the main aspects of the document. So I'll come to you. So that was a highlight of the blueprint. Thank you, His Excellency, for your deep commitment to this digital transformation. I hope, esteemed guests, that this preview has sparked your interest to know more about the blueprint. Therefore, without much delay, I request His Excellency Mr. Dharambir Gokul, President of the Republic of Mauritius, to please come forward for the official launching of the Blueprint 2025-2029. Dr. the Honorable Avinash Ramtowal, Minister of ICTI, please join us for this solemn act. I'm sure this moment is filled with emotions for all those who have contributed to this blueprint, and especially to the team that have worked relentlessly to make the document a reality. Thank you, His Excellency. Thank you, Minister. I now invite His Excellency Mr. Dharambir Gokul for his contextual address, please.
Honorable Minister Avinash Ramtowal, Minister of IT, Communication and Innovation, Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, Honorable Junior Ministers, distinguished guests, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and thank you for your presence. Well, I have a speech to deliver. And at the end of my speech, I was going to make a concluding remark on a personal note. But when I heard the minister deliver his address, I thought I should start with the conclusion first. Ladies and gentlemen, when I arrived for this function, I was met by two charming ladies. And my first remark to the minister was, if I were not the President of the Republic today, I would have been at the University of Mauritius as a part-time lecturer. Because in November, I received the contract for me to continue lecturing at the university on a part-time basis. And if you go back some 15 years, I had a student called Avinash Ramtowal, and I was his lecturer. And today, when I met those charming ladies, one of them said, you know, you have been my lecturer. And that way, wherever I go, someone or other always comes up and says, you have been my lecturer. Why I'm starting with this, this remark? Because Avinash Ramtowal was one of our brilliant students. And today it is a matter of pride for me that he is here as the Minister of Information Technology. Ladies and gentlemen, on Friday, 22nd May 2025, I attended the 6th Innovation Mauritius.com conference on Friday. The theme of the conference was AI Evolve, navigating the shift from generative to agentic AI, its impact on the workforce and the workplace, and I was the chief guest. That was Friday. That was in the morning, and in the evening, the minister was there to give the concluding address on AI. Ladies and gentlemen, if you check the internet for AI events happening online or in person, irrespective of the time zones, we are here in the evening, you're likely to come across a couple or more of AI events happening at the time you are online. This evening's event is therefore puts Mauritius on a global calendar of AI events and sends a very strong signal that digital transformation is on the move in the Republic of Mauritius. I listened with a lot of attention to the address of the minister. He gave us the historical perspective, then he highlighted the potential, the prospects of AI, as well as the risks involved, and why we should have a system of governance. Now, this launch of the Digital Transformation Blueprint 2025-29 is a defining moment in the history of the Republic, a moment that sets the tone for the future we seek to build: inclusive, innovative, resilient, environmentally sustainable, and distinctly Mauritian. The launch of the Transformation Blueprint 2025-2030 is a bold expression of our national resolve to position Mauritius at the forefront of the digital age, to empower our people with opportunity, and to reinforce the trust in a transparent, data-driven, and citizen-centric AI governance model. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a bit of context, backdrop for this digital transformation imperative. Rewind, 11th November 2024, people voted for a change. The new government undertook a situational analysis and produced the State of the Economy document. In and outside the National Assembly, in the print and social media, in evidence-based reports by international organizations, there were clear and unequivocal indications of the deplorable state of the economy and governance. I think you are all aware of this. The challenge was formidable, but the determination of the new government was undaunted. The country had to be saved for the present and future generations. On Friday, 24th January 2024, I stood here and I delivered the government program 2025-2029, a bridge to the future. I had the honor to present the government program to the nation and to the world. And I can tell you, I received many feedback, not only from Mauritius, but from across the world. Canada, Australia, India, name it. I got feedback, and those feedback were extremely encouraging. We announced, and I quote, "This program lays the foundation of a bridge to the future. The new model of development being proposed will be underpinned by innovation and creativity. Work has already started on different fronts. I know, I sense it when I meet people, a bit of impatience, but it does take some time, and work has started on different fronts: economic, social, legal, and environmental. You are aware of this. I mentioned the state of the economy, and if you follow the debates in the parliament and also what is discussed in the media, you will see that government has already started with a lot of initiatives in all these areas. Now, with this blueprint, government is unveiling its digital transformation vision and mission for a high-tech, intelligent island. It called for a 360-degree digital transformation of public services, a robust national AI strategy, the implementation of a universal mobile ID, and the strengthening of our cyber security frameworks, amongst others. This blueprint arrives at a time when nations across the world are navigating the profound disruptions of opportunities of the fifth industrial revolution. Scope, scale, speed, significance, flexibility, adaptability, autonomy, all combine to trigger a major paradigm shift from human learning computing to computers learning human behavior. We have reached that stage now. Today, the world has reached an inflection point, and we have entered an era not just of smarter tools, but of intelligent machines, agents, systems capable of operating with autonomy and precision, with speed superintelligence, expressed in terms of processing power. Ladies and gentlemen, AI has emerged as a formidable technology available to mankind for the first time. Artificial intelligence, quantum computing, agentic AI, blockchain, and immersive technologies are reshaping how we learn, live, work, and govern. The global response, you will remember, to the pandemic COVID-19 revealed the transformative power of digital systems and our strength and limitations. We have the foundations, but we must now consolidate it. The crisis of magnified digital divides between those with access and those without, between those with IT skills and those without. Wisdom teaches us not to repeat past mistakes, but to learn from them and to move on. In this context, Mauritius must not merely adapt. We must innovate and lead. Ladies and gentlemen, I will not go through the details that have been presented to you by the Honorable Minister and also in the short video. I'll skip that part, but I can tell you the document that we'll have is a very, very exciting document, and I would recommend all of you to go through it. Not only those of you who are present, but I also recommend our schools, primary, secondary, and universities to acquire, to get an access to that document and to read it and try to understand it. Ladies and gentlemen, the 4 pillars and 5 enablers have been mentioned, but there are other principles that should accompany this document. Digital equity, ensuring that every citizen, regardless of location or background, can access and benefit from AI technologies. I'll make a digression. As Minister of Education, I had the opportunity to spend one day with an eminent scientist, the former President Abdul Kalam of India. He spent one day with me. And then we had a conversation, and we talked about science and technology. And then he told me, Honorable Minister, if science and technology cannot touch the hearts and minds of the common people and doesn't change in a positive way the lives of these common people, this science and technology has no value. Similarly, digital equity is important, right? We must ensure, it's not easy, I agree, but we must ensure that the farmer in the distant village or the old lady, our grandmas, they should be able to connect. And this is a challenge that government should take. Human centricity, placing people, ethics, and societal well-being at the center of innovation. People should be engaged. Environmental responsibility, recognizing our duty to future generations by making sustainability a core tenet of technological progress. Together, they articulate a vision of a high-tech, intelligent island, a Mauritius that is interconnected, inclusive, innovative, and sustainable. I shall now mention a few of the teething challenges that we have to face when implementing digital transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, it is believed that by embracing technology and investing in our human capital, we can unlock our full potential to achieve our aspirations for a prosperous and equitable society. And already, in many sectors, this is happening. I note with pleasure and satisfaction that private sector, Business Mauritius, Association of Mauritian Manufacturers, SMEs, the MTPA, the Small Farmers Fund, the global business sector are all gearing up to make digitalization to the next level. I've been meeting most of these people, and when I meet them, I ask them these questions. What is going on with regard to technology adoption? AI's influence is simply ubiquitous, and there is broad agreement about its potential to fuel economic growth, foster innovation, encourage entrepreneurship, and empower our people to thrive in the digital age. It is believed that by embracing technology and investing in our human capital, we can unlock our full potential and achieve our aspirations for a prosperous and equitable society. However, we need to reckon the impact of technology on work. I see my friends from the trade union sector who are present, that the impact of technology on work, worker, and the work organization has always preoccupied the minds of policymakers. Will our workers lose their jobs? Yes, there will be part of it, but this is not the whole story. Throughout the preceding industrial revolutions, while technology has contributed towards economic efficiency and prosperity, it has also been accompanied by some unintended, and in some cases intended, consequences, socially and psychologically and environmentally. Automation may disrupt traditional jobs. One of the most daunting challenges in the technological transformation will be resistance to change. I think this situation, from my perspective, will be more present. The minister has given an example how he is driving change in his ministry. But this may not be the story everywhere. So there will be resistance to change, especially among older generations. In public sector, less so in the private and business sector. If we do not secure the ownership of senior management, here in front of me, the Honorable Minister of Civil Service Affairs, and less so in the private and business sector, if we do not secure the ownership and stewardship of senior management, I'm afraid we shall not be able to make much progress. Their engagement cannot be optional. It will have to be mandatory. There are many change management models that can help us, and I would recommend the bridges. We have a bridge to the future. There's a bridges transition model which takes into consideration the significant emotional upheaval that employees face as they grapple with the loss of familiar and the fear of the future. The model has 3 stages: let go, experiment and experience, and embrace. Government must also enlist the services of digital transformation officers. And my recommendation is that we should have a digital transformation bureau. And my preference would be located at the PMO. As we embrace the digital world, we must also define the rights of every citizen. Cyber threats will increase. You're reading in the media. Only yesterday, there was an article in the media about cyber crimes. all kinds of horrendous cyber crimes. But our response must not be fear. It must be foresight, vigilance, and adaptation. This requires strong data governance, continuous public education, ethical AI framework, and investment in resilience and cyber defense. We'll have to enshrine digital privacy, freedom of expression, and data protection as core pillars of our democracy. Our legal reforms will be grounded in human rights by design principles. Digital surveillance must never be used to erode civil liberties. Consent must be informed, revocable, and respected. Children must be protected from online harms. Algorithms must be auditable and explainable. Big companies cannot get away by providing anything that is harmful. They must be made accountable. In this, we'll have to engage civil society, academia, and independent regulators, not as afterthoughts, but as essential partners in digital governance. We should allow things to happen and then we take corrective measures. We must upfront deal with those issues. Digital geopolitics is reshaping international relations. Countries are competing not just for markets, but for data sovereignty, AI leadership, and tech alliances. Mauritius must position itself strategically as a neutral, ethical, and forward-looking digital hub in the Indian Ocean. We will need to strengthen ties with the African Union, Commonwealth, UN bodies, and Indo-Pacific partners to co-create digital standards and collaborate on cybersecurity and participate in global tech governance. We will also have to amplify the voice of small island developing states in international forums advocating for equitable and digital financing, climate tech, and responsible AI deployment. Mauritius may be small in size, but we can be mighty in influence. Only on Friday, we obtained our full sovereignty. Well, it shows our potential and our capabilities. Through soft power diplomacy, we didn't make a lot of noise, but patiently, with perseverance, we were able to obtain our full sovereignty. This is an example of what Mauritius can do. Ladies and gentlemen, this blueprint doesn't end in 2030. It lays the foundation for decades to come. It envisions a Mauritius where public services are available at the top of a bottom. Jobs of the future are born from ideas of today. Digital rights are respected as human rights. Innovation drives are sustainable and equitable. And our national identity evolves without losing its roots, embracing technology without compromising humanity. Therefore, my message to all of you and to the whole country is, to our young people, you are the architects of this digital future. Embrace it, shape it, challenge it. To our educators, integrate digital skills, not just in curricula, but in classroom culture. Teach our students to be critical thinkers, responsible netizens, and confident problem solvers. To our public servants, reimagine your role. You are no longer gatekeepers. You are enablers of service, transparency, and trust. To our private sector, invest in innovation. Mentor startups, partner with government. Digital transformation is not just a national agenda. It is a business opportunity. To our diaspora, Mauritius welcomes your return, physically or virtually. These are things which happen. I'll tell you the story. I had to give, address a conference. I had worked on my, speech, and I went to sleep. In the morning, when I got up, there was a problem. There was a bug in my computer. I don't know, and I didn't have a speech, to make because it was all gone. But since I had prepared it, I went to the conference and I did deliver a speech. Now, I'm coming to the concluding part. At times these gadgets, you have to be used to it just as a diversion to keep you wake up so that you go to sleep. On Friday, after the AI conference, I was invited to go and give a speech at Science Quest. That's a project that started in 2006 when I was Minister of Education. My colleagues are smiling at me, they know about it. So when I went there, it was, I think now it is more than 20 years, 2005, 2025. When I saw the developments, the excitement, and when I was listening to the two orators before me, both had their mobile and they were making their speech. I said, this is a great indication of technology at work. So I told my advisors, I go with my papers to make my speech. Today, I have decided, no papers. I'm going to use my mobile. So this is why I'm getting some difficulty, right? You all will get these difficulties. I said to myself, I'm going to make my speech, deliver my speech using internet. That is the mobile technology. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me just come to the concluding part. So as we move forward in our digital transformation journey, we shall have to deal with a number of challenges which I've already mentioned. And now, let me come to the concluding part. Okay, I'm there. So that's it. So let us move together as one people, as one nation in this defining moment. After 60 years, I mentioned, on 22nd May 2025, we're able to regain our final sovereignty on the Chagos Archipelago. So we have the potential, we have the capabilities, and we are talented. We must now win the battle of digital transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, as President of the Republic, I need to tell you something else, because this is an opportunity for me. I know I'm a bit long. I'm being called to deliver speeches every week now, and on subjects which are not familiar to me. And I'm having to do a lot of homework, because I have only 2 advisors, and they're also not very conversant with all different areas, But I have been a teacher, and a teacher is a lifelong learner. That's my advantage, right? So I will go on, giving my support, giving my contribution, because we are at a point where we need to transform our society. I congratulate the Ministry of Information Technology, and I think you are putting into practice all that you learned at the university, how to bring about change, I'm so happy, right? Your staff are benefiting from what you acquired at the university. Ladies and gentlemen, we pledge to build a Mauritius where technology empowers, not divides, where every citizen is connected, every voice is heard, and every dream has a digital past. Let it be our legacy. I always tell, from the Prime Minister to all ministers that I meet, I say, you have a mandate. It applies to me as well. When we finish, what do we leave behind? We have to leave a legacy so that people can remember that when we are given an opportunity, we do not waste it. Ladies and gentlemen, let this be our legacy. And Minister Avinash Ramtewal has a heavy responsibility. Not only that he's a minister of the government, but he is my student. And he will have to make sure that the legacy is there. As President of the Republic, I again pledge my support for this vision. Let us now move forward boldly, resiliently, and fearlessly into this new era. The future is not something we await. It is something we create. I want to end on a personal note, which I've already mentioned, and I'm repeating it, that Avinash Ramtewal was my student, and I'm proud that he is the minister, and he has given us publicly his engagement that he will do everything to leave a legacy of digital transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, with these words, I thank you for your attention. I'm sorry I've been a bit long.
Thank you, His Excellency, for the support in making a digital Mauritius. Please accept a bouquet that will be offered to you by Ms. Kirati on behalf of the Ministry in appreciation to your support of our engagement. Esteemed guests, along the way we have had partners and collaborators who have supported the shaping of this blueprint that will bring a change to the economic and social landscape of the country. On behalf of Dr. the Honorable Avinash Ramtewal and the Ministry of ICTI, I wish to thank the President of the Republic of Mauritius. Also, we would like to thank Dr. the Honorable Prime Minister for the trust placed in the Minister of ICTI and in the Ministry to come up with this blueprint. We also extend our thanks to the Deputy Prime Minister, to the ministers who have supported the document. Our thanks goes also to the staff of the Ministry of ICTI, to ministries, to staff of the PMO, staff of the National Assembly, parastatal bodies, private organizations, NGOs, all those who attended our workshops, sponsors, well-wishers, and you, ladies and gentlemen, who are here today to support us. Thank you very much. And now we look forward to the implementation of the blueprint and the materialization of the projects, and would appreciate your continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, nous avons une autre vidéo qui nous préparée pour diffuser nos médias. Vidéo là en créole pour toute la population, pour que tout le monde capable de comprendre un changement qui peut amener pour faciliter la vie de tout le monde. Nous pouvons jouer vidéo là dans un petit moment pour qu'ils aient un petit avant-goût. Et bientôt, vous êtes capable d'écouter, guetter à la télévision, obtenir à la radio, dans les médias, parce qu'il est pour diffuser publiquement. Mais sinon, là pour le moment, we have reached to the end of today's event. A collation has been arranged in the lunchroom. I request our hostesses to please guide the first 2 rows of our esteemed guests to the lunchroom.